I'm listening to what you're saying, and if it takes me off somewhere else, that's totally okay. That's more entertaining for people. There's more value in that. All right, we're sitting here with Anthony Vicino, or Anthony Vicino. Well, you know, he told me not to call him Tony, and he's pretty in shape, so I won't call him Tony. So we're sitting here with Anthony Vicino, really fascinating guy. We've been talking to a lot of real estate investors. I've been a guest on his podcast, and he's got a very interesting take on a podcast. So let's start there, right? Let's talk about what your this isn't going to be like all the other interviews you've done. We're just going to be free form and talk about stuff.
Wait, you don't have like 10 questions you just want to grill
that I will
me
mindlessly ask you like everybody does.
I have my rote answers prepared.
Exactly. They're tattooed on the insides of my eyelids. But talk to us about your podcast. I like the approach you've taken because it's different and you found a way to find a niche and differentiate yourself.
One of the most frustrating experiences, and we've been there, is we've been on a lot of podcasts where it's not entertaining, it's not fun for me as the guest or for you to be grilled with the same 10 questions of tell us about this deal, tell us how you did that, and the tactics. The tactics are one thing, but you can learn that in a book, you can watch a YouTube video. We're really interested in the strategies, the high level, the beliefs, the skills, the perspectives that you have to have in order to find success, regardless of if that's in investing or building a business or just trying to build a life. And so the podcast Brain Dump, it's all about unpacking the psychology of success, which is such a loaded term, right? Like, what does success even mean? And so that's a fun jumping off point right there. Right. It's just to say, like, how do we define that? Because it's different for everybody. And so many people, I think, have never stopped to define it for themselves. And so they're playing a game that they didn't make the rules and they're not happy with the outcome, but they don't realize they can change the rules. So that's a podcast, is like talking to people like yourself, where it's like, hey, you've made your rules, you've defined a success, and you're living it in a way that others would look at and be like, I want to be like Bruce, right? But you're not living it in accordance with anybody else's expectations. You're just doing it in accordance with your own.
Right.
I think that's super cool.
Right. So when I was on, the topic that we discussed was paying for education, paying for access, self-development, personal development. I don't like the self-help thing. That always sounds a little touchy-feely too much. But that's the direction you took the interview, and I just appreciated that so much. It gave us a chance to just, again, not answer the same questions everybody's at. I've been on so many, literally. Okay, Bruce, then the next question, what was your first property like? They're sitting there reading it, so I really appreciated what you guys did. And they don't engage when
you respond to them, and you have some answer to that. They don't unpack it, they don't have a second. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you want to start a podcast and you want to, excel, really have a conversation.
That's the key. You need to connect with your guest, because if I'm being interviewed by you and I can tell you're just waiting for the next question, you don't even know what I said.
We're just punching the clock.
If there's 10 questions and I only get 2 of them out, that's okay, because I'm being dynamic with my guest. I'm listening to what you're saying, and if it takes me off somewhere else, that's totally okay. That's more entertaining for people. There's more value in that. Next thing I want to talk to you about, though, is you are a fairly successful and, dare I say, prodigious, if that's the right use of that word, author, right? You've penned a few different books. So
a couple.
I've been talking to people a lot lately that I firmly believe in my heart that everybody has a book. I wrote a book. I don't know how to write a book, but I figured out how to do it by hiring professionals to help me. Talk to me about your book, what it's done for you, and any advice you would give for people about a book.
Listen, everybody has a story. We're in this amazing auditorium with, almost 900 other investors, and having these conversations. And I was talking with a guy just now who we went around the circle and everybody's sharing their stories. Like, listen, I don't have a very cool story. And I was like, stop right there. Like, your story is totally unique to you. You have lived a life that nobody else in the entirety of human existence has ever lived. That's unique and special. It's your job now to figure out what makes that so unique and compelling for other people to want to engage with. And if you can do that, then you can connect authentically, and you then have a door that you can step through and make impact. And that's what the book really allows, right? Like, it allows you to connect in a way that you would struggle to in any other medium. It's a very deeply personal relationship that the author and reader have with one another, because you're spending a lot of time writing this book and coming to a deeper understanding of what it is that you think on this topic. And you're wrestling with do I truly believe this? Is this wrong? Is this right? And at the end, you have one side of a conversation. And it's not complete until the reader steps in and they fill in the other side and say, do I agree with this? Do I disagree with this? And push and pull. And I think the value of writing a book, if nobody was to ever read it, is simply for you to be able to look back and say, this is what I think. And most people, I don't think, have ever really stopped to reflect on that. Like whether that's investing or, I used to write science fiction and fantasy, like wrestling with that at its core, I think there's a lot of value in it. But then we can look at it from the business perspective, right? Like there's no mistaking the fact that you have a great book that serves as a killer business card, if nothing else.
Yep.
I don't care if you haven't read the book, syndicating is a B.
You're allowed to say bitch here.
Oh, well, I don't know if my mom's watching.
Probably not.
I mean, you don't have to have read the book to know what that book is about.
Yep.
You branded yourself, and now people know you. And listen, you hear it all the time. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. It's bullshit. It doesn't matter who you know. It matters who knows you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, I know Gary Vee. Gary Vee does not know me. So he is not useful to me. He can do nothing for me until he knows me. And that's what the book really allows you to do, is to elevate your brand and your thought leadership in the minds of the people around you, one to many. So I don't have to go and talk to 1,000 people. I can hand out 1,000 books, and I have that relationship with them now.
Right, I agree with that completely. So I wrote the book, I'm a college dropout. I don't know how to write a book, but again, I found professionals that could help me write it. But what you said was very true, that it's basically a business card on steroids. It is my calling card. And I didn't write it and name it what I named it to stand out, but to really make sure people understood exactly what it was they were picking up. So yeah, I think that's been a huge thing, and I keep pushing on people, do it. Now, on the same theme as a book, everybody today is being told, you got to start a podcast and you got to start a meetup. Just that statement alone from me to you, what do you make of that? What's your thought on that?
It always starts by understanding what's your desired outcome, starting there. If your goal is to have maximum impact and to scale as quickly, as effectively as possible, then yes. You need to be hitting people exactly where they are. And where people are, they read, they go to meetups, they listen to podcasts, they watch YouTube. You need to be where the people are. Social media is a great example. I don't care if you suck at it. If your goal is to build the biggest, most badass business that you can and scale it and successfully, that's the way to do it. Now, maybe you don't want that. Maybe that's not your goal. Maybe that's not your desired outcome. It starts with self-awareness and saying, is that really what you want? And then working back and saying, well, maybe you suck at it, right? Because we can't overlook the fact that some people are very bad on camera.
Right.
Some people are very bad writers. They can't write their way out of a paper bag. So then you have to figure out, who are the people that I could surround myself with that would allow me to still put out this content? Maybe you don't have to be the face of the company. Maybe you don't have to be the writer. Maybe you can hire that out. But at the end of the day, like we are living in a golden age of possibility and potential.
Yep.
Right? And if you don't want to utilize it through social media and writing and podcasting, the startup cost is like zero.
Yeah.
I was talking to my dad the other day. My dad, he got out of the military, and this was the 70s, and he's like, man, if I knew what you knew now, I would have done that. I would have done real estate, I would have started a business. And I was like, you didn't have the opportunity because you didn't have the access to the information. The startup cost was so much more significant. We don't have that excuse anymore. Right now you're living in the easiest time ever to build a successful business or become a real estate investor. And if you want to succeed, go to where the people are.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so what I tell people all the time is, Bruce, I'm being told by everybody I should start a podcast. Should I? Well, I don't know. You have to help answer that question for yourself. Yes, if you're good at it, or if your heart is in it. If you're not good at it, and you're only going to know that by doing it, I get that too. But if your heart is not in it, don't do it because Fred told you you're supposed to do it. But I also get pushback from people about this topic that, well, everybody has a podcast. Well, everybody has a meetup. I don't give a shit. If you are good, cream will always rise to the top. Now, if you have no value to bring to the listeners or to the okay, maybe not. Find what works for you. It doesn't have to be a book. It doesn't have to be a podcast, or it doesn't have to be a meetup. But don't let the fact that somebody else can. Hundreds of people have written real estate books about syndicating. I didn't care. I had a fresh perspective and take on it. My book is syndicating is a bitch. Nobody else is telling you that. I had a different approach, and I did not let that stop. So I tell people all the time, do all of it. If your heart's in it, you think you can bring value, and you have something to really say and share. So I agree with that very much.
And what I would add to that is recognize nobody pays for the information, right? I think we were maybe talking about this earlier. I've had a lot of conversations today, so maybe it wasn't with you particular, but people don't pay for information because I can go to Google and YouTube and learn how to do anything. What we pay for is the organization and the application.
Right.
So how we organize it and then how do we apply it? And those are things that are unique to you and your voice. And that's where the value of a podcast. If you have a unique voice and a unique thought on a framework or how this thing can work, go share that with the world. But to your point, you will suck when you start.
Oh yeah, without question.
And the problem is that that's okay. I expect you to suck. The problem is most people just take it for granted. Oh, I've done this 15, 20 episodes, I'm not getting any better, and so maybe it's not for me. But they're not actively trying to improve their skills. They're not saying, how do I level up my video equipment, my audio equipment? How do I get better at my editing? How do I ask better questions? Because yes, if you want better answers, you have to ask better questions, and that is a skill. And if you're not actively trying to improve, why would you ever expect that you would improve?
Right, I agree with that completely too, that, but I would say that for those people that get in 14, 15 episodes deep and go, oh, this is not, well, that would tell me that your heart was never in this. Because if it was really in this, you would have done what you were talking about. I would have studied, upgraded the equipment, gotten better at asking questions. You don't care enough, and that's okay. Move on, find something that works for you. It's that simple. So, that's really all we've got time for today. Matt, I really appreciate you coming on. Again, I like your fresh perspective on things, your different approach to things.
Getting choked up.
Exactly, yeah. You do that to me. You're a sexy man. So again, I appreciate you being here, taking some time. I know we're at a great conference. We need to be networking and talking with people. So thanks for taking some time with me.
I appreciate you, Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you.